Let's dive right into this explainer because today we are investigating what has to be one of the most uniquely bizarre, totally surreal transcripts ever generated. Now, for some quick context, this comes from Kuldhara, a place widely known as an abandoned, cursed ghost village. But here's the catch. We're not actually looking for ghosts today. Nope, we are looking at data, specifically the auto-generated captions from an overnight investigation out there in the ruins. Because, as it turns out, when you drop automated transcription software into an environment that's basically just wind, static, and creepy ambient noise, the algorithm tries its absolute hardest to make sense of the void. And honestly, the results are nothing short of spectacular. You see this immediate, almost hilarious dissonance right out of the gate. Think about it. You've got this spooky, ominous setup, a cursed ghost village in the dead of night. You're probably expecting chilling whispers, right? Maybe some demonic growls? Well, instead, the microphone picks up, "That's my ass Christmas." I mean, come on. It completely shatters the tension in the best way possible. It's really the perfect entry point for us to figure out how our everyday technology just totally hallucinates when it doesn't have clear imports to work with. To really grasp the sheer scale of this data anomaly, you have to understand how badly the auto-captioning algorithm panicked. In the absence of clear human speech, the machine doesn't just leave a blank space. It completely freaks out. It aggressively tries to categorize the background noise, logging the word foreign over 60 times in just a short span. It literally drowned out the actual audio with this one repetitive label, with just a handful of recognizable English phrases desperately sprinkled in between. It's a perfect map of a digital system totally breaking down. I've got to read this exact, chaotic string out loud, because it brilliantly illustrates our central mystery. The system literally spits out, "Foreign, everybody else foreign, Andrea, foreign, 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 foreign." Like, who on earth is Andrea, and why is everybody else foreign? The true ghost we are hunting today is the machine itself, just trying, and completely failing, to interpret the noise. It's this fascinating look at an AI desperate to find a pattern, pulling names out of thin air just to fulfill its basic programming directive. So let's look at our first major category of algorithmic anomalies to see how this builds. And this one is wild. We're talking about completely unexplained corporate text shoutouts recorded in the pitch dark. When we analyze text data, we're always looking for patterns, right? Well, one of the most astonishing patterns in this desolate, supposedly haunted village is the sudden, jarring invocation of massive Silicon Valley tech companies. It's honestly as if the algorithm, lost in the noise, just reached out to the only things it knew for comfort. Breaking down the transcript further, we find the system logging these highly specific, completely mundane corporate entities right in the middle of all this paranormal chaos. First, it addresses Google directly. Then it mentions Facebook by name. And then, in this totally bizarre pivot to hospitality logistics, it notes a hotel tomorrow. Just imagine being in these cursed, abandoned ruins and your recording equipment starts making travel plans and shouting out social media platforms. It's so structurally fascinating how the machine defaults to modern consumerism when faced with empty static. Okay. But the really crucial point here is trying to imagine what kind of cursed entity would deliver this exact piece of Dadaist poetry to a major social media platform. Listen to this. "I don't know butter today is on your throat, Facebook." It has the cadence of a sentence, right? It has the grammatical structure of a thought, but it is completely untethered from reality. Why butter? Why a throat? This is exactly what happens when audio pareidolia meets machine learning. The algorithm is just stringing together syllables from the wind to create an avant-garde masterpiece. And then, out of nowhere, the transcript mysteriously pivots to casually and almost flirtatiously invoking another tech giant right into the void. "Hello, beautiful. Hey, Google." Just let that sink in for a second. Out there in the isolated, dark ruins, the microphone supposedly picks up an entity complimenting a search engine and trying to trigger its voice assistant. The sheer absurdity of this is exactly why we're digging into this text. It shows us the inherent biases in our tech. This system is so hardwired to hear its own wake words that it literally projects them onto silence. All right, moving away from the tech shoutouts, we've got to examine these disjointed fragments that suggest strange physical events were happening during the investigation. Because while the software was busy hallucinating social media platforms, it was also generating a wildly confusing narrative of physical action. By grouping the data this way, we can start to piece together the highly bizarre physical reality the transcription software thought it was witnessing. Which brings us to a really vital question for you as we try to piece this broken narrative together. So, what exactly happened on the floor? In any ghost hunt, when an investigation notes physical movement, that's prime evidence. But since our evidence relies entirely on a very confused digital translator, the physical events it describes are going to be, well, a little less than standard. Let's see what kind of kinetic energy was supposedly captured here. This brilliantly illustrates the sheer absurdity of the data. It paints this mental picture of unseen entities suddenly engaging in competitive floor routines. The text reads, "Fell on the floor, down in the gymnastics." One second you're tracking a potential spectral entity, and the next, the software implies someone is busting out of tumbling paths or a vault routine in the ruins of Kuldhara. In reality, it's highly likely that just the crunch of gravel, or maybe someone dropping a piece of equipment, sounded just enough like these syllables to trigger this hilarious translation. Now, if we treat this like a serious investigation, we can look at these next two fragments as environmental readings logged by our deeply confused algorithm. First, we get a very polite reading. Temperature, did you know? Nice. Almost like the machine is making awkward small talk about the weather. And then, a slightly more frantic observation. Numbers going on multiple times. When ghost hunters use EMF meters, they're looking for numbers going up, right? Well, the algorithm vaguely recognizes that concept, giving us a highly abstract, totally useless summary of the data gathering process itself. As we synthesize all these bizarre fragments together, we arrive at the ultimate conclusion of our explainer, the ghost in the machine. We didn't find the spirits of Kuldhara today. Instead, we found the internal logic of a digital mind completely breaking down. We've learned that when you push these automated systems way beyond their intended use cases, like feeding them the ambient wind of an abandoned desert village, they don't just fail. They fail spectacularly, creatively, and, let's be honest, hilariously. So we return to this heavy-hitting quote, because it really does prove our point. Without any outside context, the literal source text transforms a terrifying ghost hunt into an unintentional comedy masterpiece. You literally cannot design a better punchline than an advanced artificial intelligence, listening to the terrifying echoes of a cursed village and confidently declaring, "That's my ass Christmas." It is the absolute pinnacle of algorithmic confusion. I want to leave you with this final thought to ponder. Think about how our technology hallucinates when faced with the unknown. We rely on these digital tools every single day to interpret the world for us, right? To caption our lives, to translate our reality. But as we've seen, sometimes the tools are just as lost in the dark as we are. So what's the real mystery here? Is it the supernatural spirits of Kuldhara? Or is it the complex, unpredictable, and sometimes downright flirtatious algorithms we carry in our pockets? Thank you so much for diving into this data with me. Keep questioning the information in front of you, and I will see you next time.